All right, well, good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'll call to order. This is the Sparks Planning Commission meeting of November 5th, November 7th, 2019. I'm off to a good start. Thank you all for coming. Just a couple of quick announcements. Please make sure if you have a cell phone, if it's on silent. If you're going to be providing public comment, we welcome you to do so. We ask that you please fill out a comment card and turn it into our secretary at the end and state your name and address for the record. But with that, we'll move on to item number 2 on our roll call, and that's for roll call. Madam Secretary, could you please call roll?
Commissioner Perry?
Present.
Commissioner Green is absent. Commissioner Blanco is absent. Commissioner Hunt?
Here.
Commissioner Peterson?
Here.
Commissioner Pritzos?
Here.
Commissioner Vanderwall?
Here.
Assistant City Attorney Alex here. Assistant Community Services Director Armando Ornelas.
Here.
Thank you very much for that. We'll move on to item number 3 on our agenda, and this is a public comment period. This is an opportunity to provide general public comment on an item that's on our agenda or not on our agenda. Do we have any members of the public who wish to submit a public comment at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll close that public comment period and we'll move on to our agenda. That's item number 4, which is approval of the agenda. I didn't have any corrections or additions from staff. Would the commission care to take a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Vanderwell.
move to approve the agenda.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion to approve the agenda by Commissioner Vanderwell. Is there a second on the motion?
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a second by Commissioner Peterson. All those in favor of the motion to approve the agenda, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. Move on to item number 4. This is approval, or item number 5. This is approval of our meeting minutes. First up, we have approval of the meeting minutes from our October 1st, 2019 Planning Commission study session. The commission care to take action on this item?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Vanderwell.
move to approve the minutes of the October 1st, 2019 Planning Commission study session.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve the October 1st study session minutes. Is there a second on the motion? Is there a second on the motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Peterson. We have a second by Commissioner Peterson. All those in favor of approval of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion carries unanimously. Next up is approval of our October 3rd Planning Commission meeting minutes. Would the commission care to take action on those 34 pages of minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Peterson to approve the meeting minutes. Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
I'll give that one to Commissioner Pristos for the second. Thank you very much, Commissioner Vanderwall, as always. Okay. All those in favor of approval of the October 3rd Planning Commission meeting minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to item number 6. This is informational items. Do we have any informational items from the staff tonight?
Chairman Carey, members of the commission, Armando Ornelas, we do not.
Okay. Thank you for that. We'll move on to our public hearing items. First up is PCN 19-0033. This is a conditional use permit for intensification of a substandard development at 1940 and a half F Street. Jonathan, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Planning Commissioners. I'm Jonathan Cummins, planner. PCN 19-33 is a conditional use permit request to allow an accessory dwelling unit on an existing home at 1940 and a half F Street in the mixed-use district with the RN residential neighborhood land use designation. The applicant is proposing to build a 400 square foot accessory dwelling unit onto a 1,015 square foot structure. Per the zoning code, accessory dwelling units are to have separate utilities and no separate utilities, and no separate address in order to remain accessory to the primary structure. The property in question, or the structure in question outlined in blue on this vicinity map, is 7 feet from the rear property line. Currently, the zoning code requires in the RN district that the rear property line be 10 feet from the structure. So the zoning code outlines substandard development as a lawfully improved lot which does not satisfy current provisions of the zoning code to include setbacks. Lawfully improved meaning that it met the standards when it was built, but currently it does not. That section of the code also states that an increase in floor area or building height, which this project will do both, constitutes the intensification of a substandard development and is allowed only through a conditional use permit. With that, staff is proposing that in order to mitigate impacts, that we condition parking, which currently will satisfy the increased demand with the ADU, that we require a surveyor to prepare a site plan to demonstrate drainage capacity at the site and to make sure that architecture complies or remains compatible with the existing on the home, and that's outlined in this image. So staff believes that the planning commission can make the 5 required findings for a conditional use permit. Finding C1 requires conformance with the comprehensive plan. Staff believes that this project will comply with policy CF1, that service levels can be provided by the city at the site. Goal H1, which facilitates affordable housing, among other things, and policy H2, which promotes a variety of housing types to expand housing choice within the city. Finding C2 requires compatibility with surrounding uses. To the northeast and west is all residential. To the south is Kate Smith Elementary School across F Street. Finding C3 addresses the impairment of natural resources. The site is already built, and the proposed addition will not impact natural resources. Finding C4 addresses any other identified impacts. There will be no increase in lot coverage. The addition is going to be a second story on top of an existing structure. Per condition 3, as I stated before, the staff will be requiring a site plan to be prepared by a surveyor prior to the issuance of a building permit in order to address drainage issues and also to document the setbacks on the site, since those are the issues that are sort of requiring the applicant to come forward here today with this request. Per condition 4, architecture will be compatible with the existing structure, and condition 5 will require that off-street parking be maintained on the site. Finding C5 requires public notice be given. Public notice was published in the Reno Gazette-Journal on October 25th, and the 181 property owners within 500 feet were notified on October 23rd. And staff is recommending approval, and I'll be glad to take your questions.
Thank you, Jonathan. Do we have is there a representative from the applicant here?
The applicant is present.
Okay. Would the applicant's representative wish to make a statement? Come on up, just state your name and address for the record. And you're welcome to provide just a brief overview of the project, if you'd like.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lynn Wyndham. I'm the owner of this property. And what would you like to know? Just our intent? Why I want to do this?
I think that's fine. We typically like to give the applicant, an opportunity to speak, and just be
all right.
available for any questions
Okay.
for the planning commission. Thank you,
right.
Lynn.
Okay. I like downtown Sparks. I think it's a great little neighborhood. I think it's improving. I think things are looking up, and I hope to do the same thing with my property. Provide some infill housing, which I like, rather than urban sprawl. So that's what we're trying to do.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, I would like to open up the public hearing on PCN 190033. Would any members of the public wish to provide a public comment regarding this proposed conditional use permit? I didn't receive any comment cards, but you're welcome to provide a public comment at this time if you'd like to. Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing on PCN 190033, and we'll bring this back to the commission for discussion and consideration. Does the commission have any questions for staff on this one? Jonathan, I had a question regarding the architecture, and I appreciate the elevations and the application. When you're reviewing accessory dwelling units, do our design standards require them to be the same color scheme or materials?
So I believe the language of the code reads compatible with,
Okay,
as opposed to identical.
okay. And would staff typically look at trying to have the same color scheme in terms of compatibility?
Again, if the two colors were different, compatibility would be the issue as opposed to whether or not the two colors were identical.
Okay,
The same thing would apply to architecture as well as color.
okay, thanks, Jonathan. Are there any other questions for staff on this application? Okay, seeing none, what would the commission like to do with this conditional use permit?
Well, fine, now I have to put my glasses.
I know, so go.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, please.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Peterson, please.
I move to approve the conditional use permit CU 19-0012 associated with PCN 190033, adopted findings C1 through C5, and all the facts supporting these findings as set forth in the staff's report, subject to the 5 conditions of approval as listed in the staff's report.
Thank you, Commissioner Peterson. He's made a motion to approve this conditional use permit. Is there a second on the motion?
Commissioner Funes will second it.
Thank you, Commissioner Funes, with the second. Any comments, discussion, questions concerning the motion from the commission? Okay, seeing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Lynn. Okay, we'll move on to our second public hearing item. That's item number 8 on our agenda tonight. This is PCN 190032. This is a conditional use permit to allow for a 2,800 square foot minor recreational facility. Welcome,
Chairman
Ian.
Carey, members of the Planning Commission, I'm Ian Crittenden, I'm your senior planner. This is a request to allow a minor recreational facility in a C2 zoning district, in the C2 zoning district. The applicant is requesting to occupy a 2,800 square foot tenant space in the Bering Village Shopping Center. You can see the parcel, the greater parcel is outlined here in red, and the actual tenant space is outlined here in black, is directly west of the Smith Shopping Center in this strip center here on the west side of Bering Village. The minor recreational facilities are permitted in the C2 zoning district subject to the conditional use permit process. The conditional use permit process allows both staff, the Planning Commission, and the noticed public to evaluate the request and to look at the potential impacts of that request, and then in the case of staff and the Planning Commission to recommend or issue conditions of approval, or to see if those potential impacts are mitigated through the site design as submitted. The specific nature of this recreational facility request is for axe throwing and for smash rooms. If we look here, this is the preliminary site layout for this use. This would be the front door, which faces north into the parking lot. The axe throwing lanes there are 4 of those, and they are on the east side of the property up against the Smiths would be here on this side. And then on the north side, they've indicated 3 smash rooms on this plan, although the applicant in the study session informed us that due to the need to have a second restroom facility, they are going to lose one of the smash rooms and only have 2 at this location. Smash rooms allow participants to smash household and items with hammers and other tools and implements and such. The conceptual layout, like I said, does show 3 smash rooms. The applicant is telling us that they're only going to have 2 due to the restroom concerns. However, the issue actually being reviewed by the Planning Commission is about 2,800 square feet of this recreational use. And so while the mix of the uses may change over time, or the orientation within the building may change, those type of changes would not come back to the Planning Commission for amendment. However, if the size of this space changes or the use outright changes to something else, that they would have to come back and talk to the planning commission again for re-review of this location. Staff assessed the potential impacts of this use and had many questions and concerns about participant safety. But in our staff's review of this and our looking at participant safety and so forth, we came to the determination that participant safety really is not a land use concern. While we think it is important, we did ask the applicant to submit their safety policies and procedures, and they did submit those to staff who reviewed them. And we feel that they are adequate to show that sufficient attention has been given to those things. But in the end, we didn't feel like the participant safety was really a land use concern. And the applicant is here to talk about any sort of questions you may have about these specific activities and what kind of safety processes have been put into place. But in the end, we felt like the real impacts that this use would have on the general public in large would be those of parking in this shopping center and noise generated by this use. Staff did receive, I got myself off of my list of bullets here. There are 5 findings required for conditional use permits. The first finding, C1, has to do with compliance with the comprehensive plan. This site has a C, or commercial comprehensive plan land use designation, and has a C2, or general commercial zoning. That zoning district is a permitted zoning district within the comprehensive plan, and this requested use, the minor recreational facility, is a permitted use in the C2 zoning district. Thus, we find staff believes that that compliance compliance with the comprehensive plan is made by it being a permitted use in the district that is also permitted in the land use designation. In addition, staff felt that this use had some impacts on or supported certain goals and policies of the comprehensive plan. Namely, the use supported goal MG1 to support economic vitality and goal EV1 to grow and diversify Sparks' economy. This would be the first axe throwing business in the city of Sparks. We've heard there are a few in Reno and so forth. And this would be the first smash room business that staff is aware of in Northern Nevada. And so this gives us an opportunity to kind of grow and diversify and do different things. In addition, this site has been developed for many years, and all the city services can be provided as necessary, which supports policy CF1. This finding C2 looks at compatibility with adjacent uses. To a certain degree, compatibility was determined at the time that this site was zoned to C2, and this use was a permitted use in that district. And so staff feels that the compatibility issues have been addressed specifically through the zoning being a permitted zoning adjacent to its other uses. I want to say condition, but it's not. Finding C3 is about impairment of natural resources. This site, as mentioned, has been developed for quite some time. The occupancy of one tenant space will not have additional impacts on the natural environment. And then finding C4 is the big one for conditional use permits. It looks at identified impacts and the potential mitigation measures that need to be taken to address those impacts. The first one that staff noted, reviewed or analyzed was parking. The Bering Village Shopping Center, we'll go back to that site plan, has 712 parking spaces. The traffic analysis that was submitted, the parking analysis that was submitted, showed that even at full capacity of parking demand for the uses inside the center, we were only at 656 parking spaces, so there are 56 parking spaces available. It's more than ample parking spaces to accommodate this use. The second impact that staff identified was noise. Staff does not believe that noise generated to adjacent properties is anticipated to be a problem. There's quite a bit of buffer distance. This is all happening indoors. So the staff didn't see that was a major concern. We were concerned about adjacent tenant spaces being impacted by the potential noise generated by this use, and we are proposing condition number 3 that would require the applicant to demonstrate and to install sound mitigation measures into the smash rooms to limit the noise going out of that use to adjacent tenant spaces. Finally, we have finding C5, which is public notice. 533 property owners were noticed within 500 feet of this site, and public notice was published in the Reno Gazette Journal on October 23rd. Planning staff is recommending approval of this, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that the Planning Commission may have.
Thank you, Ian. Does the commission have any questions for staff? Commissioner Peterson?
Ian, I had one question answered for me. I went high and low over this thing all day today for a time schedule, a time of operations. But I did get that answer.
Okay.
So thank you for that. But on your finding C2 for compatibility, it says also the adjacent properties. So there was taken in consideration those directly south of multiple family dwellings.
So when the Bering Village Shopping Center was built in, I want to say like 85 or 86, I can't remember the exact date on that, there was a review done for that shopping center, and the consideration for adjacent multifamily housing was considered at that time. The determination was that a shopping center in the C2 zoning district was a compatible use to adjacent multifamily housing. This as a use that is allowed within that C2 zoning district was considered as well. So when you consider that, as Planning Commission knows, when you consider a land use adjacent to other land uses, you have to consider all the available uses that are happening there and consider whether or not they are compatible. So staff feels that if the zoning was permitted, whenever it was permitted in 86 or so, that consideration was taken into effect then. And so any use permitted inside the district is, to a certain degree by default, considered compatible. Now, in the case of conditional use permits like this one, we do want to look for unforeseen or out of the ordinary impacts that use may specifically have. But those we feel are better addressed through finding C4, where we look at those identified impacts and address mitigation measures. So it's not necessarily an issue of this use is not compatible, but it may have impacts that make it less compatible, but we're going to mitigate them through finding C4. Does that make sense?
To a degree, yes. Thank you very much. One other question I might have, though. Do you know is Smith's a 24-hour operation?
It is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Peterson. Are there any other technical questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to invite the applicant's representative to come down and make a statement or a short presentation if you'd like to. Welcome back, Jay.
Good evening. My name's Jay Pepper. I'm the proprietor of Smashing Good Time. I'm here for the conditional use permit for axe throwing and smash rooms.
Thank you, Jay. Does the commission have any technical questions? Frank, or Commissioner Peterson, my apologies, Commissioner.
Sir, I spent some time there just on the way here. It was getting very dark. I do suppose you have some plans for outdoor lighting around that.
That's actually on the landlord. That's nothing that we can add to the space. We'll have a sign on the front of the storefront that'll be lit.
Oh, okay.
That will help somewhat.
Oh, okay. Didn't know additional lighting.
I believe, because we were also there today, I believe up underneath the soffit, there's a series of lights, but I'm not sure they had them enabled at this point.
Yeah, well, they sure went on tonight, but
It was kind of dark.
It's just my personal opinion that the more lighting you could have in that alleyway, I guess.
That walkway.
Yeah, walkway in front of it would
That
be.
soffit does have lights under it, so we'll make sure we get the landlord to get those taken care of.
And you do have signage prepared
Yes.
for that? Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Peterson. Are there any other questions for the commission? Commissioner Fewens?
Jay, thanks for coming. I saw that the materials after the smash room is going to be addressed with your recycling agreement. How do you get those materials? There'll be drop-offs or can you explain how you grab the smash materials, the keyboards, the TVs? What I was just worried about, is there going to be something in the back where people just pull up, throw their TV out and grab it?
That's not the
How-
plan.
Or you could explain how that works?
The plan is we have some strategic vendors in the area that we're working with, and we'll be picking up those materials directly from them on a daily basis. There shouldn't be anything dropped off out back.
Thank
We will
you.
accept donations, but they'll be through the front doors during business hours.
Commissioner Pristos, his hands on the button.
So I know they mentioned,
Your mic's not
noise,
on.
oh,
There you go.
there it is. Noise reduction, and I know that you mentioned during the study session that you've been in contact with a similar operation down in Las Vegas. What sort of sound mitigation are they using, and do you think that that would be what you would look to do?
Yeah,
in this?
absolutely. Great question. So we're replicating everything they're doing. It's a material called Quiet Bat. It's about 1.5 to 2 inches thick. And it's made out of ground denim. So that'll be applied directly to the walls and then over the ceiling to mitigate the sound.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Commissioner Pristos. Are there any other questions for the applicant? I had one, Jay, concerning the hours of operation. The application stated that you'd be open from 1 o'clock to 11 o'clock PM. Are those hours to avoid, or do those hours of operation work for this type of a use?
Yeah, so we're anticipating the majority of our business being more evening.
Okay.
That's why we're shooting for those hours.
In nature, okay. Thank you for that. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, seeing none, you're off the hook for now,
Great, thank
Jay.
you.
At this point, I will open up the public hearing on PCN 19-0032. Would any members of the public like to provide a public comment concerning this proposed conditional use permit? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing on PCN 19-0032, and we'll bring this back to the commission for discussion and possible action. Are there any additional questions or discussion from the commission on this conditional use permit? I had a couple discussion points just to kickstart things off here. Appreciate the work that staff and the applicant have done on this application. I think we've done a pretty good job of identifying the main impacts from this use. I think this is a unique use. Recreational facilities are not easy. This commission's seen major recreational facilities and minor recreation. They bring their own kind of unique set of challenges. I think from the discussion we had at the study session and reviewing the application, I think we need to add a couple more conditions of approval to kind of identify some of those identified impacts a little bit further. I would propose to the commission that we would add a new condition of approval for hours of operation. The applicant has stated 1 p.m. to 11 p.m. Would work for them, and I feel that those hours would be acceptable for this type of use and would mitigate some of those identified impacts. The other condition I would propose is another condition, and that would be regarding electronic waste removal. I do have a concern from a public health standpoint with, once you start smashing up electronics, there's a lot of hazardous materials that come out of that, and I think that could pose a threat to the public. And I think a way to mitigate that is if we require the use to have a separate waste removal to handle the electronic waste. And we did see a quote from a local vendor that's very qualified to handle that. So I think this condition would help mitigate those concerns moving forward. So I would propose. I feel this is appropriate given the land use. I think we've identified the noise and the parking concerns very well with the application and through the staff report. So I would throw those out there for the commission. And Armando.
Commissioner Carey, I think, certainly we have drafted these possible additional conditions for your consideration per your request. You know, I guess I would ask the planning commission to really consider whether the hours of operation condition is necessary. This is a C2 zoning district. You could have, for example, a bar with, where they had bands on a nightly basis. You know, there's a lot of other uses that could go in that site. If the applicant's business is successful, I could see where, you know, in order to grow their business, they might want to extend their hours, say, on the weekends. And if we attach this condition of approval to this conditional use permit, they'd have to go through the expense of having to come back through this process again, just to change the hours of operation. To the extent that, you know, you're going to add that condition, I guess I would encourage you to articulate, you know, the rationale more fully, if that's the committee's or the commission's desire.
Okay, thank you for that. I think, you know, what I was thinking on the hours of operation, I think this is a use we've never had before in the city. I think it's a unique use. It brings, you know, from the noise point of view, I think the hours of operation would help kind of tighten that up and alleviate those impacts. But I'm certainly welcome to further discussion and from my colleagues.
Can I get in this?
Commissioner Peterson, sure, thank you.
I'm strongly against putting more conditions of hours on there. I'm quite content with the operations of the hours as they're listed now. I expect the gentleman to abide by them, but I do not like to, I think if we put hours, limited hours on that in a condition report, we're limiting a man's ability for business to grow and growth. Who knows how that might take off? If anything, he might want to lower the daylight to the early hour and instead of extending the late hour, which I'd be more in favor of. But I really can't see conditioning hours for a business starting off that's newly founded business and you're limited his ability to growth, and I wouldn't want to do that to any business.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Peterson. Commissioner Vanderwell.
I'm going to concur with Commissioner Peterson. I don't think that we should limit the hours of operation of a private business. And I don't want to have undue where the applicant would have to come in just to change his hours of business.
Okay. All right. I think where we can go from here. Would anyone care to make a motion concerning this application?
I'm not going to make a motion, but Commissioner Carey.
Thank you.
Or Chairman Carey, I think that it would be important that both of these conditions, staff did try to write up general conditions for these two things, have both of them written into the record, then whichever way the commission ends up wanting to vote or make the motion, including or excluding whichever motions they want, they have been read into the record, and therefore we have that condition in place.
As part of the motion.
Yes, please.
Okay.
I would not mind making the motion. If I may first, we're still in discussion.
That is correct. We're still in discussion.
I would like to make a comment before I make a motion then.
Okay.
Part of my comment is, believe me, I'm not against the activity of this thing. Heavens knows I wanted to break a few items in my life and I wanted to throw axes at somebody. Come to think of it, I might have done that. But the thing is, I did strongly have a disagreement with the compatibility that we had found in this. However, I do think with your explanation of findings 4 will help us along on that, because I'm not against the condition report for the business that he's got. He's going to control the noise, I know, and he's got that well under control. And he's going to control most rowdiness in his establishment. my more concern is coming out, those people coming in and coming out. It is a adrenaline producing activities. And when they come out of that, who knows what they are. In addition to that, there's a Pizza Hut right down to the northern corner of that quad, and which a lot of alcoholic beverages will be consumed. And I know he'll control them when they're on his premises, but when they come out, he's got no control of it. So my only concern was the compatibility with the existing structures around there, existing residents, non-multiple family residents at that. But since you explained findings 4 to a degree that I can accept it, and furthermore, since I cannot find any real wrong with finding 2 to present an argument, I will then go along with this, and I will even prepare to make the motion. Is that all right? Okay. I move
Go
to
ahead, Commissioner. Sure.
approve the conditional use permit CU 19000011 associated with PCN 190032, adopting findings C1 through C5, and the facts supporting these findings as set forth in the staff report, subject to the 3 conditions of approval and as listed in the staff report.
Okay, so just for clarification, your motion does not include, it's only the 3 conditions of approval in the staff report. It's not the one,
Not the,
not ours. What about electronic waste removal?
no,
Okay, it does not include,
the conditions that he's gonna have to be governed by that, and besides that, he's got authorities that's gonna watch that.
okay, so it does not include just the 3 conditions of approval listed in the staff report. Is there a second on that motion?
Commissioner Fewens will second it.
Okay. So we have a motion to approve. We have by Commissioner Peterson. We have a second by Commissioner Fewens. Okay, any discussion or questions concerning the motion? I have a couple comments. Respectfully disagree with my colleague. I certainly understand the concern about the hours of operation. I think understand staff's concern. I feel that some hours would help further mitigate this. I strongly believe that we need a separate condition of approval requiring the electronic waste removal. I think those are separate hazardous materials that need to be handled appropriately. We do have a commitment on the record to do so. Hopefully that's enough, but my concern is without a condition of approval specifically requiring that, there's no mechanism to require another operator from having to have that separate waste removal. So without that condition of approval, I will be not voting in favor, reluctantly not voting in favor of the motion. Is there any other comments, discussion concerning the motion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed, nay? Nay. So I believe that was 4-1, and motion passed. The item is approved. Thank you all for the discussion on that. Thank you, Ian and staff for your work on that. We'll move on to general business. The first item up is public comment. Is there any general public comment? This is our final opportunity this evening to provide public comment. Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public comment period. We'll bring it on to item number 10. This is comments from the commissioners. Do the commissioners wish to make any comments? Okay, I just, this was something Mayor Tony Armstrong always advocated for, was always in the meeting on a high note. And I just wanted to give a couple shout outs to our staff. Want to extend our appreciation to the city for hosting the APA conference last month. Thought it was a great conference. It was great to see my colleagues there and the staff participate. I thought it showcased the city really well. I wanted to extend my appreciation to Karen Melby for putting together a really cool planning class. She put a 5-week lesson plan over at the Dilworth STEM Academy, all about planning. Had the opportunity to go to the first one, and we talked about master planning, and it was really cool to hear the students over there. So great job on that. And I wanted to extend a congratulations to Jim Rundle. He was selected as this year's recipient of the Professional Planner Award by the APA chapter. So much congratulations, well deserved honor for that. So with that, are there any other comments? Okay, we'll call this meeting adjourned 6:41 p.m. Thanks, everyone.